Hey there, my friends. Today we're going to continue with quadratics, domain and range. So this is day 2. It's not going to be much different than what we've already been doing. It's just about practice. You know, domain and range is one of those things, the more you practice, the better it's going to get. So what we're going to do now, though, is actually use Desmos to graph. So let's say you're given a function or an equation and you're asked for the domain and range or the vertex or any of those things. So obviously you can go ahead and graph that function. Remember, f of x is y equals, and in this case, 3x squared. Super simple, very quick graph to create. So the first thing I want to talk about is the vertex. So our vertex is located at the origin. In this case, so 0, 0. And this will be the case anytime you don't have the bx plus c. If you don't have this piece, it's going to be at the origin, okay? I also want to talk about the width of this one. I want you to notice it's kind of a narrow parabola. So I'm going to write that word here, narrow. So let's talk about here, is there a maximum or a minimum? There is a minimum at 0, right? Oh, I guess, whoops. Meant to erase, got carried away. Now let's talk about the domain. Remember, even though you don't see them, these arrows, if I were to, it's not gonna let me, if I were to shrink this, let me get there. If I were to continue to shrink this graph, it would actually be continuing forever. It's kind of hard to see here, but you can tell that it actually does continue forever and in both directions. So this would be an all real number domain. The range, we would use the y value of the range. So the range would be all of the y values greater than or equal to 0, because it's the origin we're using here. Let's look at some more. Now, I'm actually going to do this one without graphing first, and then we'll check after that. So, first of all, for the vertex, remember we need the axis of symmetry, which is negative b over 2a. So I'm going to find my axis of symmetry, which would be a negative 4 over 2 times 2, which is 4, so this would be 1. Simple enough. So the x value of my vertex is 1. So now I'm going to substitute a 1. Let me get this guy down here. So I'm going to substitute a 1 into my equation. So y equals 2 times 1 squared minus 4 times 1 minus 1. So this would be 2 minus 4 minus 1. Excuse me. So 2 minus 4 is negative 2, minus another 1 would be a negative 3. So this would be a negative 3. So this time, though, the maximum or minimum, whenever your a is positive, you know it's going to be a minimum, because that means the parabola is going to be, or the vertex will be down here, and it's going to be opening up. So now I can find my domain and my range. Because I know it's opening up, or in most cases, your domain is going to be all real numbers unless you have those dots at the end, which I don't. Now let's talk about the range. The range is going to be the y value of your vertex. So y values greater than or equal to negative 3. So let me graph it now and check my work. Hopefully I got it right. That would be embarrassing. So we have y equals 2x squared minus 4x minus 1. So when I touch here, there's our vertex. And of course, there's a minimum, and then it goes from there. So see, you don't necessarily need to graph it in order to find your domain and range. I'm going to do this one the same way. I'm going to go ahead and do this without, excuse me, without graphing. So I'm going to start with finding my axis of symmetry. So negative b over 2a So it'd be a negative 6 over 2 times 1. So this would be 6 over 2, or 3. So now I'm going to take that 3 and substitute it into my equation. So this will be y equals 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 8. So 9 minus 18 plus 8. So working our way from left to right, 9 minus 18 is a negative 9, plus 8 would be a negative 1. So then our vertex would be at 3, negative 1. Their A value is a 1. So that means that we are going to have a minimum because it's positive. It's opening up. For our domain, we are going to have, again, all real numbers. And now for the range, we're talking about all y values that are greater than or equal to negative 1. So let's see where we're at. So y equals not that 6, and I didn't get my 6 in there, plus 8. Okay, so when I touch where that is, so 3, negative 1, it opens up, so that means I have a minimum, and so on and so forth.